Hello, lovely people. So I just watched Ariel Bisset's video on fanfiction and whether or not she considers fanfiction to be legitimate literature. And I just sort of wanted to make a video about it because I thought it was an interesting topic. And she said that she was coming from a perspective of someone who does not read a lot of fanfiction. And I wanted to sort of throw my opinion out there, because I am someone, I do read fan fiction, I occasionally write fan fiction, I'm not very good at it, but I am someone who participates in the general world of fan fiction, and so I sort of thought I might have something to say about it. So I think it's hard to judge fan fiction as a whole, because you get a huge range of things. I have read stories that are beyond the length of an actual novel. I can't remember the title. I want to say it's like Confucius or something by BJ. I don't know. It's, if I can find it, I'll link it in the doobly-doo. But it's this, each chapter is around 50,000 words. It's about James and Lily and the Marauders, and it is basically its own novel. And it takes very little except for the setting and the characters of James and Lily from Joe. They're completely their own. It's amazing. I think I would definitely consider that literature, because taking characters, taking a world that already exists is not a new thing. I mean, whenever you set something in the modern day or in our world, you're taking a world that already exists. And when you set something in a currently existing fantasy world, you're just doing the same thing. Except I know it's not exactly the same thing, but it's the same sort of concept. You're taking a world you already know, a world that already exists, and you're putting new plot lines in it. And when you're dealing with characters like that one is, James and Lily, you don't have a ton of knowledge about them. And so really she could do whatever she wanted. And she did, and it was wonderful, and I really wish she updated more, but I understand why she doesn't, because each update is like 50,000 words. But yeah, anyway. But I feel like because the plotline is unique, you don't really get to say it's not her story. It's not her own creation. But then I feel like you also, on the contrasting side, I've seen stories that are 2 lines long and are clearly meant to be comedic, clearly meant to be sort of ironic mockery of fan fiction. So, there's really a range of fan fiction, because I don't think I'd call something like My Immortal fan fiction, I don't think I'd call something like My Immortal literature. That's just me, though. So when it comes to actually saying, is fan fiction as a whole, literature, I think some is, I think some maybe isn't, but I think it's not fair to say that fanfiction, just in general, none of it is literature, because there are a lot of things, and Ariel Bisset brought this up with her mention of Bridget Jones's Diary. There are a lot of things that are essentially fanfiction. Pretty much any adaptation of anything that doesn't stick to the original setting, original plot, original characters, everything is essentially fanfiction. If you look at the Lizzie Bennet Diaries, that's just a modern AU of Pride and Prejudice. If you look at, Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet, same thing. And Bridget Jones's Diary is a fanfiction. It's an AU of Pride and Prejudice. And, I'm someone who, I read a lot of fairy tale retellings, which are essentially just fanfiction of fairy tales. And so, it's not like we wouldn't consider those literature just because they're published. And just because they're off of older things, off of older original concepts. And so I don't think it's fair to say no fan fiction is literature at all, because we've already considered some fan fiction literature. We've already published it, and it's already been, New York Times bestsellers. And so I think it's definitely something that you have to take on a case-by-case basis, because I wouldn't consider fan fictions that are specifically written just to sort of make people laugh and be made fun of, written in a satirical light. I don't just mean fan fictions that I don't think are good. I mean ones that are specifically written in a satirical light. I wouldn't consider some of those literature, but I think that there are definitely some that are legitimate literature that are worth so much and that are amazing and really, really well written and, could be published if it weren't for copyright issues. I think in this discussion, it's also important to recognize that just recently we've had things like Interlude Press that is taking fan fiction and helping the authors sort of rewrite it in a way that they can get published. And I think that's absolutely incredible. And I think it'll definitely be really, really helpful in helping the world sort of see what fan fiction is and why, people write it. And I think that that's sort of, fan fiction is not well understood. And I think that's why it gets a lot of shit. Whenever you ask actors about fan fiction, they kind of freak out and they get uncomfortable because all anyone ever shows them is the super weird kinky ones. And that's not all of fan fiction. And I think that it's important that people recognize and are able to learn more about what fan fiction is and why it gets written and why it's read. But yeah, I think that some fan fiction, definitely literature, but that's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments what you think, and I will see you all at a later time. Bye.